Welcome to another episode of the Layman's Guide to the World Cup. I'm your host, Henry, and today we are looking at Group G. This is, we just had some strong groups. Now we're getting into another weak group where there's a clear favorite, and then the rest of the teams you're just like, I don't know what's going to happen here. Anyone can get second, anyone can get third. It really is just who's going to play today and who's going to take advantage. So, with that, let's get the obvious favorites out of the way, and that's Belgium. Belgium is a far cry from their golden generation of the 2014-2018 World Cups, but they're still a pretty strong and relevant team. They're an elite team with some very elite talent. Their nickname is the Red Devils. As a Manchester United fan, I guess I can relate. But their best performance at a World Cup was in 2018. They got third place. So, last World Cup, though, they got grouped. So, after the 2018 World Cup, a lot of players retired. So, they're still trying to find their identity. And I think they've found it right now. They've kind of found their collective identity right now and can play into that. So we'll see. Euros, they're round of 16. So, but they've had some good friendlies, and they've dominated some teams, including they dominated the U.S. in March. So, but they got some good guys. They have solid leadership that I think and a solid spine that will really help push this team. They won their group for World Cup qualifying. Pretty straightforward with that. But their big three players, you have Kevin De Bruyne, who's one of the greatest playmakers to ever live and play this sport. But he's old. He's older now. 34. He plays for Napoli in the Serie A. Still had a good season, but he's not as sharp and doesn't have the pace that he used to have. So will that be a factor? Of course it'll be a factor. What am I saying? It'll be a factor, but his teammates hide that, and so they can just focus on his playmaking ability and really just take that as an advantage. But his partner in crime, Yuri Tielemans, in the midfield, he'll be the one that's he's kind of their destroyer, kind of their center mid that will kind of clean up for him and kind of let De Bruyne do his playmaking thing. He plays out of Aston Villa, which Aston Villa have had a great season in the Premier League. They'll be in the Champions League this upcoming year. They won the Europa League. So, and they'll probably be fighting again for a European spot. Unai Emery has done a magnificent job at Aston Villa. So, I can see he's the captain. So, I think he'll be a big part of this team. And then probably their saving grace is they have one of the best goalkeepers in the world in Thibaut Courtois, who plays for Real Madrid. So goalkeeping in soccer, goalkeeping can take you far. And this guy has been the main goalkeeper for Belgium for a long time. And he's probably got another World Cup or two in him after this. So he's still in his early 30s, so he's a solid goalkeeper and has been very good for a very long time. So he'll keep them in games, and he'll ultimately determine where they're going. So likely finish for them, they're going to win this group. I don't think there's any question in that, unless the other teams bring it. But yeah, win the group. Make it on the round 32 all the way to 16. I think if not making to the round of 16, I think will be a failure for them. I think they have the talent to do it. They're in that elite category of team in this World Cup, in the top half of teams in this World Cup. So, but I think they can make a quarterfinal run. I don't know past that. I can't think so past that. But round of 16 is kind of where I'm sitting with them, just because the top teams they'll have to face to get to the quarterfinals, and I don't know I feel like they can beat some, but there's a lot that could beat them. So it's kind of this balance here. Next up, you have Egypt. Egypt's story really is that they're the most successful African team with the Cup of Nations and in Africa when playing against African teams. But for some reason, if you see this as a continuous story going on as we talk about these African teams, it does not translate to the World Cup. It doesn't. So can it this year? Because the farthest they made was the round of 16, and that was 1934. And they've really only been to a handful of World Cups. And the last time they were a World Cup, they got grouped. So, but, they made it to the semis in the AFCON. And they've done it for the last two AFCONs. And then before that, they've won it. So, and they've won it like 6 or 7 times. So it's like, can it translate to the world stage? That is the ultimate question with them. They have Mo Salah, who's one of the best wingers to ever play in the English Premier League, with like 6 straight 20-goal seasons. So he's gonna have to do. He's getting older. He's gonna have to do a lot of heavy lifting. But can Egypt be more than that? I don't know. This goes into the whole story of the group. Is like second and third are both up for play by any of these 3 teams. So I think success would be getting that second place spot, but more than likely they're going to get knocked out in the round of 32 unless they get a very favorable draw and make it to 16. I think Salah can really put this team on his back, but round of 32 is more likely with them. Next up, you got Iran, which is going to be also interesting group, interesting team, especially with all the geopolitics going on in the world right now. So, can they put that at the door and kind of, do something that's more than them? I think they'll be fighting for the second and third place spot. They don't have any a lot of remarkable players. I mean, they have Mehdi Taremi, who plays for Olympiacos, who's their striker. But really, they play in this Asian mold of really it's a team as a whole, like I've talked about before. So I think that's kind of where they're going to play in their discipline, and if they can use that to kind of break down teams. We'll find out about that, but they qualified for this through winning their group. Their group for Asia had Uzbekistan, who made it to the World Cup, and they also had Qatar. They were first place in this group. So, and they did really well. So, it's really what's going to happen here. That I just really don't know. So, I can see them, if I had to make a guess, third place in this group, which they might have the right tally to then go the round of 32, but I don't see any more than this. Then you have New Zealand, who've made it to 2 World Cups in their lifetime. And the last time they've never made it out of the group in the World Cup. And the last time they were at the World Cup was in 2010. And they're always the team that wins Oceania, yada, yada, yada. But this year is different with the World Cup, where Oceania in the past, why they've don't have many World Cup appearances, because Oceania would always play off against another team from another continent, and that will determine whether or not they get to go. With this new format for the World Cup, Oceania gets a locked-in berth for the first time ever. So for them, that'll be exciting going forward, because you can have Tahiti one year made it to the World Cup, which was a big deal for that little country, because none of their players were professional soccer players. They were all amateurs with a 9-to-5, and they had a weight of a country behind them, and they were just happy to be there. It was exciting, but we could have more stories like that, since now Oceania has an automatic spot in the World Cup. So New Zealand are kind of just that happy to be their team. And we'll see. I mean, they do have some interesting players, like Chris Wood, who plays for Nottingham Forest, who's a solid striker. And he has a lot of Premier League experience and scoring goals in the Premier League. And then you have Liberto Kake. I'm not going to pronounce that right. But he plays for Wrexham, which Wrexham, is a famous team with their Hulu series, and Ryan and Rob both bought the team. So you have these guys with some good experience over in England, and the rest of that, everyone plays either in the Australian League or the New Zealand League, and which aren't the best leagues in the world. But I think they're similar to a lot of Asian teams where they'll play with a lot of heart and in a system that works for them. It's just whether or not they'll break through. Because I think a success for them is getting third place. And if it's good enough, they can make round of 32. But more than likely, I feel like they will be fourth place in this group. I see them, they will scrap, they will fight, they won't give up. But it's hard to see a reality where they're going to get higher than fourth place. We'll see. Magic can happen. That's what's the beauty of the World Cup, is there's always teams fighting above their weight, and crazy storylines of giant killers and all of that. And that's what makes the World Cup so beautiful as a sporting event to watch. So I really don't know with this group. This is the group where it's like, I can see it going many different ways outside of Belgium being the winner of this group. So that's the questions. Will there be a team that takes some points off Belgium? Where will Iran be able to get out of their geopolitics situation? Can Egypt show up? And can New Zealand make some magic as a tiny little country that could do something pretty cool? We'll have to see. So, we'll see you tomorrow for our next episode. Bye.